the Department of Energy and Secretary. Yeah, that's what she was. Yeah. She was also secretary. She's getting a new title, so last time I saw her.
She is getting some time.
I must she had
Before this goes off.
so just check her. The governor's rental office, okay.
Yeah. So where do you work out of that?
I work out of Boston at our, we call it the Hub. It's right next to the TD Garden, right next to the high-rise facility, which is great. We opened it up in October of last year, in the middle of a pandemic, so it's been mostly empty. But we have our official return to work coming.
Oh, no.
Yeah, where are you at?
I'm in Auburn, Mass.
Oh, okay.
So we were contractors to the building. But I was previously with Trump. So I've been to the Verizon building. The Echo's house. It was right by the big high-rise.
The 125 house I work on we have had two.
Yeah, I've had a lot of those.
Okay, so when did you leave Charter?
Yes.
They have 5 districts. Oh, okay, so it's so, what did you do? Construction manager?
I was director.
Okay, great. Only engineering. And we're Oh, okay. When you left? Oh, okay, because he used to work in Verizon. There was one in but
He took mine, yeah. When I left.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm like, I think that sounds like his title.
Yeah.
Just from LinkedIn.
Carol, Donna.
Carol.
Yeah, and I thought the weather.
Carol. I think she's in construction. You're very sure. Carol, this is a big project, so we were 4 years. I wasn't sure. Part of the last episode.
Well, funny because that's two perspectives. I'm from, I was a child doing that. And then as a contractor, I came and started doing. So I've been doing it since the beginning.
Yeah, okay, so,
Morning.
Is Jen engineering?
Yes.
I have to hear.
Well, sometimes I guess it does take a village.
So we're going to ask John Goodhue, the host that's here today for the Massachusetts Marine High Performance Computing Center, to just say a little welcome. So good morning, welcome. This is the very first event that we've hosted in this room since the first lockdown in 2020. We are thrilled to have you. Thank you for kind of navigating, those of you who did, our twists and turns on COVID policy. This is our first mask optional day. I think the only thing harder than following policies is making them, so thanks to the Baker administration for navigating us so far. I wanted to say just one thing about this event. My first encounter with broadband was about 25 years ago, when I was asked to start the first broadband business unit at a company called Cisco Systems. Some of you know Cisco. Our biggest problem at the time was people telling us, why would anyone ever want this thing when those modems that made those funny clicking sounds were doing so well? We got over that, and I think we were always convinced that the hardest problem would be this one. How do you get broadband to everyone in mostly rural communities like Western Massachusetts? So for me, this is really a wonderful event to see. Have a great meeting, and we'll see some of you towards the end of the day.
Great.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John, for that warm welcome. I think I know most of you, but my name is Ashley Stolba, and I'm Undersecretary with the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, and we're so excited to be here in person to celebrate all the collaboration and teamwork that's gone into Make Ready. We know that broadband access is critical for our economy. We knew this way before the pandemic, but obviously COVID really highlighted the need for everybody to have broadband in their home. So really thank you to each and every one of you for really laying the groundwork, literally laying the groundwork to get our 53 last mile town set up for broadband. So I know every single person in this room has played a huge role in all of this work. We have asked that one representative from each organization sit around the table. So Dan, I'm going to ask if you could start with brief introductions of your name and your organization, please.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor. My name is Dan Glanville. I am the Vice President of Government and Regulatory Affairs with Comcast.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us. I'm Laurel Pepin. I'm the Director of Internal Operations at Certex Certex Broadband.
Good morning, thanks for having us. I'm Katrine Farrader, I'm the Director of Customer Service and Sales, and my role is actually I'm the liaison to all the 19 communities that we represent. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. David Velez, Director of Electric Field Operations for Eversource in Worcester, Mass.
Francisca Hemming, Mass DOT District 1 Highway Director.
Good morning, John Marr, Charter Communications, Director of Government Affairs.
Good morning, Dave Poplawski, Vice President of Construction at ITG, BTR.
Good morning, Stephanie Lee, and I lead Government Affairs for Verizon in New England.
Good morning, Michael McCallan, National Grid. I'm the head of electric operations in New England.
Great.
Hey, Michael, you're also a doppelganger for Mike Heffernan, who's our Secretary of Administration and Finance. I literally walked in the door and I looked at you and I thought, what is Mike Heffernan doing? We already spent all the money.
Trying to get more money. I also know we have DTC Commissioner
Karen Pearson, Commissioner for the Massachusetts Department of Telecom and Cable.
Thank you. I also want to recognize some members of our staff who work so hard on behalf of the Commonwealth, and I know you all know them because you're the ones who are talking to them every day. But we have Bill Ennin, Peter Larkin, Cornell Robinson, and Michael Baldino also here, so thank you for all the work that you do. And I know Representative Blaze is also in the room. Thank you to you and your colleagues for all of your ongoing support and attention to this. Thank you.
Is Representative Pease in here somewhere, too?
Yes, he was outside.
He's outside? He's on the phone?
Yes, he's on the phone, but thank you to him, too. So this has obviously been such a team effort, but the leadership really did come from the top. In 2018, when you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, set up this group, you didn't just say, good luck, let me know when you're done. You were super focused on it, every milestone, every poll, every household throughout this entire 4 years. So thank you for your leadership, and I'll kick it over to you, Governor.
Well, actually, it goes back a little bit further than that.
Tell us.
I can't remember if it was in 15 or 16, but at some point around then, Lieutenant Governor and I both had moments. And mine was I was actually giving a speech out of town that I couldn't avoid, which was unfortunate because then Senate President Stan Rosenberg had asked me to come speak at a gathering there was an annual gathering.
I went to that too.
Was it?
Yeah.
So this was at the same time? Okay. There's a gathering at a beautiful facility. I could see the facility in the background. That apparently he hosted every year for Western Mass local officials and legislators, and he had asked me if I would sort of beam in and participate in the forum virtually, even though, which is kind of interesting given where we are now. Was it in Greenfield?
Yes, it was.
And so I got on and I did my thing and I gave my speech about all the great things we were doing, and then Senator Rosenberg said, would you mind just listening to some of the local officials for a minute or two? And I said, sure. And literally it was 45 minutes of one after another about broadband and about what that meant in human terms to them and their communities. And it was incredibly compelling. And it then led to a series of conversations between the Lieutenant Governor and myself and folks in the legislature about what to do. And there were a number of things that happened, but we are an administration that always believes that at the end of the day, people are policy. So the Larkin and Bill N.
Bill
and
Larkin.
Peace became, honestly, a big part of this became get a couple of people who are credible in Western Mass and who have access to us on the ground to try to help us put this together. The legislature was terrific about giving us a pretty significant pile of funding to put a lot of this work together, and off we went. And we got about 2 years into this, and it was better, but it was still moving at a pace that was too slow. And it was at that point in time that we realized that there's so many disparate players who all had a piece in this, that even though we figured out the menu piece and one size wasn't going to fit all and everybody needed to be able to choose something off the menu that made the most sense for them, we needed some way to gather people on a consistent, regular basis and to literally take what were individual organization schedules and timeframes and mash them all together so they fit. And then we needed to find somebody who literally would crack every head that needed to be cracked to get from here to there, Lieutenant Governor. And,
Chief head cracker? Is that what I am now?
you are. You're the chief head cracker. And then I just got the hell out of the way. And the progress that's been made over the past several years has been remarkable. But I have to come back to this issue. This is all about technology, but in the end, it's just really, this is so human in terms of how I think about it. And a number of the conversations we've had with both just residents and local officials in a lot of the communities where this has become available, they don't, it's not a tech story, it's a living and life story. And the one I'll never forget was sitting in the, I think it was a pizza, wasn't it a pizza shop in Mount Washington, maybe?
Close. Not exactly sure, but I remember it well.
Where was it?
It was,
Do you remember?
I don't know exactly where.
In any event, the fire chief,
Yeah,
who had a part-time job
Princeton.
as fire chief,
It's Princeton.
was in Princeton,
Yeah.
did his full-time job at the pizza shop. He was a sales rep for a company, I think, located in Chicago.
That's right.
And he said having the ability to actually do his job someplace other than in the pizza shop was a really big moment for him. And the superintendent of schools said that for the first time in a very long time, they actually had new arrivals to the community, both folks who had moved into the community, people who had children in the community, and for the first time in a very long time, they had an increase in the number of kids coming into kindergarten. And I think one of the things that we all forget about on this stuff is if you can't play in this space in the 21st century, your ability to create and build a future for yourselves, for your families, for your neighbors, pretty close to impossible. And this is like running water at this point. And that's why for us, this Make Ready program, to sort of coordinate and accelerate a lot of this activity across very big geographic areas has been such an important part of getting to where we are now. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the chief head cracker.
I'm going to actually stand because I want to see you and see the team that made this happen. I'm so proud to be here at this moment with all of you and just to say how grateful I am for what you were able to accomplish together. Going back to what the governor said, everybody came to this experience understanding the need and the why, right? We live in this incredible state. We're literally in the, sort of somewhere in the middle of it right now, but from one end to the other, it was inequitable in terms of the infrastructure available to people's properties, to people's lives, to people's businesses, and to people's opportunity. And when we get up and head to the State House, meet from Central Mass, to go from Swampscott, you'd see all this incredible opportunity in Eastern Mass. And we'd head west, and we didn't see that level of opportunity. And that's the kind of story we heard from Stan Rosenberg at meetings like that over and over and over again. that this is essential infrastructure and we don't have access to it. So our property values are compromised, our ability to resell our home is compromised, the ability for my kids to learn is compromised, the ability for me to expand, start up my business is compromised. And so we need to get this done. The one thing that was there, thanks to our legislative partners when we came into office, was the funding, okay? That appears to be the easy part of this, right? Funding was available. There was a desire to get this done, also valuable. But what we're celebrating today is the how to get this done and to get the results that the people of this part of our Commonwealth needed and deserved to have. And that took an extraordinary commitment, it took extraordinary collaboration, and it took extraordinary care on behalf of all of your requisite institutions to commit the time, the energy, the resources to get this done. And for that, I am deeply grateful. Individually, you're all expert at what you do. You come from fine organizations with talented people, but not particularly created in a way that normally connects to one another. And so that's why this was so complicated. And I've said this before, complicated should never get in the way of completing something so important and so impactful as this. So when we started off back in 2015 and 16, had all the money, we started down this effort, we also were part of the system that will just get this done. But then we had that point in time where we said, we're not going to get this done timely. And we're just going to run into the same roadblocks over and over again, where in a part of our state that's very rural and homes and properties are more remote and driveways are very long and roadways are long stretches and there's ledge and no poles in some places, it became very complicated. And on top of that, you had communities that were wrestling with what is the best solution for my community, and having that whole process locally to decide, new technology, new future for our community, but what is best for us? And so in every community, making different decisions. So once we kind of got this team back on track, and the breakthrough moment was the make-ready process, that you cannot wait for a community to be ready for construction and start construction, we'll never get this done. And saying if we can pull together a team and work through making a community ready and then available in some part of the community for construction, we will accelerate the pace of this project. Now, we would not be here today if it wasn't for the collection of people right here in the front. Bill Ennin and Cornell Robinson are rock stars when it comes to this make-ready process. Cornell Robinson on the inside, tracking all of the details that made for that integrated schedule. I mean, that's elaborate stuff, but it kept us all focused on the particulars and the details. Bill Ennin was the eyes and the ears and the person available in the field, at town halls, in your communities, and really assessing with his own eyes. I don't know, you traveled to every road in every community in the last mile set to be the one that would actually say, this is what I saw yesterday, and it's not exactly what we're hearing from the team. And he really held us all together. Mike and Peter, thank you for your ability to listen, because I think you got a lot of the input from the locals about the concerns, the anxieties, the fears, and everything else associated with that, and brought all that to the team as well. And so, so things like make ready, integrated schedules, swarming your utility crews, removing roadblocks pole by pole. No more waiting, no more wasted time. The willingness to try led to an unprecedented process and a fast delivery of broadband to the people of Western Massachusetts. And for that, we celebrate a 4-year anniversary, and Make Ready is done, right? In a very short period of time, Make Ready is done. Let me just give my official thank yous to everyone. Eversource, National Grid, and Verizon, thank you. What you did started from the top, giving you the authority and ability to do your work, and coming to meetings in person at your office, Commissioner. And then 2 years of this effort required us to be in virtual meetings to get through this. We are very grateful for everything that you brought to this. And please bring that back to your teams in the office. Charter, Comcast, Westfield Gas and Electric, thank you. You stood right by it every step of the way to assist the team. You became friends through this process. Right? You kind of were friends before, but like you really got tight after this, so thank you. I'd also like to thank all the construction companies. A difficult process before pandemic, through heat and cold temperatures, weather events that would take your construction crews elsewhere, but then coming back and being ready. You would be staging your equipment and your teams, so when you got the green light that came from Bill and Cornell, like ready, you were in there in a short period of time, ready to go with construction. When your crews were rolling around the streets of the last mile communities, it gave people in this part of our Commonwealth the belief that this was actually going to get done.
Of the entire team to find a better way. It's one of our values at National Grid to find a better way of working. And the last value we have, make it happen. And it's so great to be here today to share in the success of this initiative to, the common purpose of getting service to the 28,000 homes. So it's awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Eversource?
I'll piggyback up. I've been thinking on the amount of effort involved here, and I'll say, speaking for Eversource, and I'm going to assume for the other utilities, this is not anyone's day job to just solely do make-ready work. And it involves everyone on our team to collaborate and to think on their feet and to, whether it be look at new things on their desk or get in the field. People were problem solving every day to make this happen, to meet deadlines, to be ready to answer, whether it was on Cornell's weekly calls, whether it was on Lieutenant Governor's regular check-ins. We knew this was important, and we knew that we had to step up and excel here, and the amount of collaboration with everybody was just remarkable.
I like that line. This is not part of your day job, but it was an added on, but it certainly was necessary to do it that way. So that's the right way to look at it. Verizon, where are you?
Right here. So I would agree, this work is complex, and I think this is unprecedented, what we did here in Central and Western Mass, and I know it took a lot of attention to detail and a lot of project management early on to kind of work through the kinks, and through that process I feel like we really did build a great partnership and collaboration and had trust in one another. And I think the other thing is that enabled us, as things got thrown at us that we couldn't predict, like a pandemic. I think we have more storms than ever. The weather events that seem to keep rolling through, especially in the central and western area, can definitely throw some surprises your way. But to be able to stay on task and think creatively and find a way to get the job done on time, because we were really racing time, especially when the pandemic hit and you still have people that don't have connectivity. And we know how important that is to be able to make sure that we can fulfill this promise and spend the money that had been allocated so that every last family and home can have the connectivity they need. So I'm really proud to be part of it, and also want to thank all of my colleagues from Verizon who really worked hard to get this done. So thank you for the partnership.
As you think about it, we're asking you to do certain things on a pole, right? Or in a place. And it could very easily lead to, no, that wasn't us, it was them. And a lot of finger pointing and a lot of, a negative approach. You put all that away and you said, no, we're going to help each other get to that point. And that was it was beautiful to see from my point of view, but I could see that there was a lot of struggles and pull and take in between that, but it was done in a productive way.
And part of that's because of the fact that most of the work you guys do day in and day out is either repairs or modest adds to stuff you've already got in place. So the fact that the calendars aren't thoroughly coordinated, and the work isn't framed up and built off the schedule, and the community, for the most part, doesn't even know necessarily that there's this repair or this add or this change going on, because the underlying machine that's associated with what's operating in that town is just continuing to go. But when you're talking about open space and, you know, really big moves, I mean,
Ledge, remember?
oh yeah, it's literally like watching someone dig a hole in the moon. But
Put a pole where it needed to be. But without that, you couldn't string it along to the rest.
And people think, well, you know, they had to dig into the ledge, so people think it's going to be just like this. And they're there. I mean, that thing basically made 1.5 foot worth of progress in the hour that we were there. Which, by the way, is what a lot of people think when they think about government. But that last event we did in Beckett, 2,000 people, hundreds of miles of poles, 4,000 poles, all, you know, green turf. I mean, totally new. And it's when you get into that if you don't have a process like this one, it's going to take, because there's no built-in model inside any of the players to actually think about it that way. And that was why this process was so important.
Let's talk to the providers and talk to us about the take-up rates and what you're hearing from your customers. We have Charter and Comcast and Westfield Gas and Electric. I want to start with Comcast.
Great. Thank you very much. I had a short drive this morning. I've lived here in Holyoke for 53 years, and I often tell people I had cable television in 1972 and I had high-speed internet in 1996. I started with Comcast in 1998, and I quickly became informed that a good deal of people didn't have that access. And Governor, as you said, it was your administration with the Lieutenant Governor that took this up. And I remember going to a meeting with Peter and Michael shortly after they were given their power, and they used the words that you used, Lieutenant Governor, and said, let's get this done, and how do we get this done? And we quickly developed a program to try to get this done. We worked with the DTC, the MBI, the Secretary's Department to find ways to get this done. The DTC gave efforts that helped us with licensing so that we could get over the regulatory burdens that we needed to get over. And then we quickly partnered together where we could, and when we had an issue, we were able to reach out to Michael, reach out to Peter, so that they could reach out to you for one of those meetings to push on how to get this done. And it was never too much of an ask. I will say that we're happy that we're thankful that at times people didn't think this would be able to be done. But after the fact, we have expanded more than 300 miles of plant, serving more than 3,000 additional customers. And those customers are very grateful. I remember an event we were at where an elderly woman stood up and she said that the difference it made to her was that her son and his family visited more often so that he could work via remote work at her house. I thought that was impactful because it made a personal difference to her. So you said also that we became friends. We did work more closely together. We were able to call each other and try to solve problems. We didn't always agree, and I'm not sure we ever will, but we did solve problems to solve what you and the governor wanted us to solve. And thank you for that. Thank you for the efforts, and thank you for the celebratory event.
That's great. That's great. So you've lived here all your life?
Yes.
53 years. All right, so Charter.
Yes, good morning. Happy to be here to celebrate this 4-year anniversary. Our construction teams at the company are grateful for this whole process. We built out 10 brand-new towns across the Commonwealth, Central and Western Mass. Princeton was one of them, and I remember we had the event there, and hearing all the stories from the folks in town, how it makes such a huge impact. I've been in the industry for a long time. We kind of take for granted broadband. You know, I'm from Eastern Mass, not Central or Western Mass, and you know, I've had it for years as well at home. I remember AOL, you know, in '96, and hearing the static noise or whatever, but you know,
we're both still on AOL. We take a lot of pride in that.
But I mean, how far we've come. And now we're talking about gig services everywhere across our footprint. We have 10 new towns. We have 9,200 new customers. We're building new, I get New Braintree and New Marlboro mixed up. We launched New Marlboro. So New Braintree we're building currently. Sandersfield we expect to launch at the end of this month. And I've been working with Peter and Michael on Royalston and Warwick, but that's through RDOF funds. The MBI program has been a great success, but Charter has also gone into the RDOF. We won $1 billion at the auction, the federal level, so we're using funds for that to build Royalston and Warwick. And across the country, we're committed to rural broadband. The company's going to invest $5 billion in that effort. We're just into it, and we're very thankful for this whole process. I've been to the meetings with the head cracker sitting at the head of the table and looking everyone in the eyes saying, okay, you know, with the guidance from the whole team, you know. So it's been a great success, and we're happy to celebrate with all of you and the commissioner and the secretary's office, everybody. It's been a collaborative effort. The contractors, you know, we can't do it without them. They're a huge part of this. So I just wanted to shout out to the contractor. He's a former Charter employee. When I started, he was leaving to go to a contractor, so it was good to see him. And good to see everyone. I haven't seen a lot of these people in 2 years in person, so it's nice to be out without a mask. I had a Bruins mask on the last time I was with the governor in Springfield at an event, so it's good to see everyone without the
They're having a
mask.
pretty good season.
Yeah, they're doing all right, yes.
That's great that this work has inspired or informed rural broadband in other parts of the country. It's great, especially with the federal government making a commitment to that with more resources. What we did here in Massachusetts sets up other places for the same opportunity. That's terrific. Where's Westfield? There you are.
Right here.
Right.
Good morning. So it's funny because I lived in Westfield, and then I was part of the pilot area for Whip City Fiber and growing municipality from the beginning. And then I actually moved to one of the unserved communities in Blandford, and my mom's first thing was, they must have service there. And I said, no, Mom, I promise you, that's what my role is. So it really hit during the pandemic, and I know Bill Enden was passionate about it, and how are we going to go into the homes? How are we going to provide them service? So we even got creative with external boxes with our operations team, and then the contractors, Surtex and ITG. But I think when it comes to the Make Ready, I know that's what we're celebrating today, was the utility joint rideouts with some of our former project managers. There are project managers, but they're former linemen. They look at a pole, they know the history, they know all the information, but coming together to how to improve the timeline to get consumers their service. So I think that definitely helped. And then focusing on the pilot or the fiber areas, so the neighborhoods, which area, so it made sense that they're not going to the last area, but Surtex is ready to do construction in the first area. So that definitely helps with your leadership and your commitment and your dedication. I know in New Ashford, we were sitting in the town hall, and New Ashford only has, I'm going to look at my notes here, 243 poles, but it's so critical that they needed service. And then the Beckett, you folks in Beckett, that was huge. That was an exciting day. And then, thank you. So we're happy to be here, and we are passionate. We're approaching almost 14,000 customers in the Hilltown, so it actually oversees our gas number of customers. So that's huge, and over 915 miles of plants.
That's great.
By the way, I would imagine that once this thing is finished, and in the places where it's already up and operating, it does create opportunities for those communities to invite other people in, because now they just become part of the add-on and the small change, and they can basically say to people, yeah, we have it, it's available, sure.
Exactly. New Salem has a complete new development moving in.
Yeah.
Because it has fiber.
Right.
And it's definitely a benefit
A
with
joint
people.
ride out, though. How fun was that? With
Yeah.
Bill. And then I remember, too, the neighborhoods that were on an edge of a community, so edge
Yes.
roads, edge neighborhoods, and figuring out, do you serve that in this community or the neighboring community? Like a lot of extraordinary issues that you solved through. All right, so let's talk to ITG and Surtex on the construction side.
Ladies first.
All right.
So I'm here to share from our company how proud we are to be part of closing the digital divide in Western Massachusetts. Thanks to the partnership of the governor, the Lieutenant Governor and the Make Ready working group, the most remote areas of Western Massachusetts are stepping into a future of gigabit fiber connection. The reality of light-speed internet is nothing short of transformational for these communities. So over the last 6 years, Certex has constructed networks in 12 remote towns in the Berkshire Mountains. Altogether, our crews have deployed approximately 500 miles of fiber optic cabling, both in the air and underground. That connected over 12,000 residents and businesses to high-speed broadband. Everyone in this room has spent countless hours in make-ready meetings in the field, working together to overcome the obstacles and accelerate the speed at which these would expedite the installation and complete the construction in that area. So communications was a challenge. In the hill towns, cellular dead zones prevented our crews from communicating in real time. To overcome that challenge, we worked with the FCC to secure long-range communication antennas that we mounted on our trucks and our equipment. The solution allowed us to collaborate in real time with Eversource and Verizon crews that were working in the area. And that helped us keep the projects moving forward.
I get goosebumps thinking about that. Right? That's crazy.
We kept working forward on time and on budget. So weather and geography also presented challenges to keep things progressing through the winter snows, the spring mud season, the torrential rains. We adapted our equipment, for example, chains on tires during the snow and the mud season, allowed our trucks to get through and our crews to keep working. We enlisted the help of the Transportation Authority to plow away the snow and the mud when we needed a little bit of an assist. So our crews, that we crossed rivers, we climbed mountains, we dragged cable through forest, I saw that myself, through woodlands and trucks where the trucks couldn't navigate. The challenge of doing hard work really motivates our crews to overcome every obstacle. So today, we're just months away from completing the 108-mile fiber network in the town of Beckett that you spoke about. We're looking forward to working with all our partners in this room today as we finish this project, and we really thank you for this opportunity to be part of this. So thank you.
Wow, that was I could visualize, although not feel like the pain that went through the work that had to get done. To your whole team, we're very grateful. Thank you very much. ATG?
I'll echo what Laurel said about the Make Ready and, the showstoppers and how it impacted our crews on the projects where time is money, right, for the contractors.
Right.
And I'd just like to thank all the utilities for what they did in coming together and those showstoppers and working through that with us and acknowledging the need that we had to be able to continue with that forward progress. As the project went on, it was delightful to be involved in a project where the people were so ecstatic that we were in town to build. I'll give you a couple personal stories. We were pulling some underground, and a lady came out with banana bread for us. So we would send daily updates to where the crews were working to the towns, to the MLP board. And Charlemont specifically, the MLP, his wife would look at where the crews were going to be and bring them picnic baskets, sandwiches, drinks. So it was refreshing to work on such a great project that the people were so receptive to. So many times we work on projects where, the cable's been damaged, the service is compromised, the people are aggravated, it was a refreshing project. And I'll share one story. Bill knows this. We were pulling a cable across the Deerfield River in Charlemont, and I was in a kayak pulling a line across. The kayak capsized, and I was in the water for 30 minutes myself and had to be rescued, trying to get the line across for the fiber to go across the Deerfield. So it was all hands on deck. And it was February and the water was 32 degrees and I was in for 30 minutes. So,
This was part of the job description?
other duties.
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
So who got back in the water to complete the trip across?
so we floated a soda bottle down off the bridge and a guy on the other side caught it and then they walked the line across the bridge and went down onto the other side of the deer field.
Oh, yeah.
Much better than a
Yes,
kayak.
great plan, great plan.
Wow, you win.
So, you know, I have a unique situation where, like John said, I was with Charter. I built Princeton, you know, one of the first towns for the fiber to the home initiative for Charter, nationwide, actually. And, you know, to come as a contractor now to do the work, it was very fulfilling in my career. So thank you for the opportunity. Again, thank you Verizon, Eversource, National Grid. You guys are great, and Bill and Cornell. Thank you.
That's a tough one to top,
Yeah.
right? That's great. That's great.
Does anybody have video?
No, but I got the stick that they threw to me to save me with the rope still on it. I saved that.
Souvenir.
It was a run, yeah, it was, everybody heard about that on the, through the project files.
I'm sure,
So-
I'm sure.
Neighboring towns were checking.
I did not, I had jeans and a coat,
Seriously?
30 minutes.
The
Really?
neighboring towns knew before I knew. They're like, why was Dave in an ambulance? And he was
Yeah.
in the river, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I talked to Joe, and he's like, yep, that happened.
State
So he might
police.
have a camera. The town of Coleraine.
You get banana bread for life.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you.
Is White Mountain? White Mountain couldn't attend. Okay, all right. Well, we appreciate that. And let's give the agencies a chance to talk, DTC and MassDOT, and I'd love the MBI team to share some final thoughts with us.
So we were just really happy to be at the table, and we want to thank the governor and yourself, Lieutenant Governor, for your support. You know, this initiative has been in the works for a really long time. Without your leadership, we would not be where we are today. Like it was said earlier, we're more of a regulatory body, but we didn't need to flex our muscle in this. Everyone came together and worked so cooperatively, and so we're so appreciative of that. So again, kudos to everyone in the room for all of the hard work, and thank you for all of that. That was heroic. But again, this is so fantastic. And like you said earlier, it's about shrinking the digital divide. And that's exactly what the administration has done for communities in the western part of the state. Really shrunk the digital divide. And that's so fantastic.
And showed the way to do this in rural America.
Exactly.
Francisca.
Well, I have to echo what Karyn said, and it was a great coordination work. It was a big effort, and everybody was really collaborative, and that was one of the things that I enjoyed the most. I am one of the people that didn't have broadband and good internet basis, so I have a sense to this program, so thank you for your leadership and the effort. We did work, I'm familiar with the issue with Dave because Charlemont and Coleraine were done during February. It was a lot of coordination with Maximilian, the contractor that was doing all the work. And that was a timeline when you have to tell your contractor, I need to fit this work into your schedule, and you can do your utility work because I need to get the contractor to do the work for the broadband project. So that was one of the biggest things, the coordination. Another thing that we have was the crossing on I-90. You know, we have to be careful. How do we cross cables underneath the bridge? Where do we drill? You know, do we put the cable in front of the railing or behind the railing or through the conduits? Because some of the conduits were full and we didn't have a way to cross it from one way to another. And also learning in our own telecommunications system in Boston, because you know they are in charge of all the lease agreements with the utility companies and what conduits are available and which ones we have to do through the manholes, which ones we can do through the utility of the bridges. So it was a lot of people involved before I actually be able to talk with Bill, like this is what the way we are doing it after we review all the submittals and do the permitting process. That's another engineering side of the project. So it was really rewarding as I covered 56 communities in District 1, and having broadband comes to heart to me. And I was one of the person, like my daughter, she goes to Union College, and with the pandemic, we didn't have internet for her to do her work, and it was a huge, huge challenge. So I'm very grateful for the entire project and working with all of you.
That's great.
So thank you on behalf of District 1.
Mr. Glenn?
I'm in Lanesboro, so Kathleen, I'm familiar with the issue in New Ashford because we share the same, so, yeah.
That's great.
Go Dutchman.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's give MBI the final word. We'll start with Peter and Mike, and then, of course, Cornell and Bill will round out our conversation and our celebration this morning before we take our tour.
My goal is to acknowledge the team, and I can't say enough about negotiating all the legal agreements that have to put in place.
Hey, Peter, why don't you stand up so the folks behind you
Yeah.
can hear you?
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge the team. Mike Baldino was working on the agreement that we had, and as you know, there was no size that fit all, so we had to create responses accordingly. And of course, I was through the documentation that Cornell did, the technical director, and Bill went in on the ground, which was superb. And my role in many ways was to work with the legislators, and you remember the Steve Kulik conversation, Stan Rosenberg, and all their staffs, and Adam Hines currently, and Smitty Pete and Tully down in South County. All those guys played a role, and they understood that, receive the complaints as you may, you're trying to solve this problem. Their houses couldn't even be sold because they really lost their value. And the role that you played, Governor, was you were the wind under our wings. Because at the end of the day, they knew they had to respond to you in the meetings that we took place. It really did make a big difference. Every day that the DTC was on the line for the same way, Lindsay DeRoche played a critical role just to be listening and with it, you were on the line. And of course, working with Carolyn Kirk, together now with Ashley, the continuation of the policies, it really did make a big difference. So I can't say enough about it. Everybody in this room played a part. You're not in an island, and everyone's playing a part.
So Peter said it so well and so eloquently that I just again want to recognize, we wouldn't be here today if we hadn't, if you hadn't, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, taken that leadership role and really redirected our entire approach to broadband in early 2016 that led to kind of like a reset and a relaunch of programs. And, that really just having every community be able to decide their own path and be able to support their own unique circumstances was absolutely critical. And just, everyone in this room, as Peter said, has played a huge part in this. I just want to thank, I'm so lucky to help lead a great team at MBI and amazing partners at Housing Economic Development, and just, whether it's Comcast, Charter, our wonderful private sector partners, utilities, everyone just, it took a village to get this, to get this done. And Commissioner Peterson, for your continued, guidance and leadership, it's just been an incredible effort, and really proud to be a part of it. And just thanks to everyone in this room for helping us realize this.
Thank you, Mike. Cornell and Bill.
All right. I'll just say that I'm happy that we can see the goalpost. It's been a long and fun, actually, for me, 4 years. Meeting with you guys, getting to know you guys, working through problems. I thank folks for all the leadership and support and direction. I was happy when we finally got the idea that we needed to create an integrated schedule. If we needed to have the utilities, we need to understand things like the first person to make their moves on the poles was always the electric company. And then Verizon would come in. But there were other times where, things like who had the responsibility of setting the new pole, who had the responsibility of removing the old pole. I learned a lot in this project.
But a bunch of things you probably never really thought you needed to know, too.
Yeah. And I enjoyed the whole thing, the whole task. My whole family, my mom, my grandma, they all know about my big meetings on Thursdays. And they know that I'm going to work late hours on Wednesdays, to get ready for that and create all the documents that I have to send out. But I just thank everybody, utilities, everybody, for the reports that you guys gave. That, like we all depended on getting those reports to be able to update the schedules or to update our meeting minutes. It's just been a great experience. Thank you.
That is true. That's great. That sense of not wanting to let anyone down on the team was definitely visible and felt by me. I went on those check-in calls. I mean, you had already checked in with one another ahead of time. You didn't want anyone to look short of their work, and you really supported each other. It was great to see. And Bill, that was true for you too. I mean, and I think the secret really was your eyes in the field, because everybody knew you knew what was actually going on because you were there. And I know you took this to heart, Bill, and you really believed in this project, and you were really the glue that kept this all together. And we are very, very grateful for your leadership. And of all the public service work that you've done in your career, I hope that you hold this one high on your list of accomplishments.
So, Governor, I'm 30 years in on economic development in Massachusetts. So I started at the Franklin County Community Development Corporation, and on a project there to stem the loss of metalworking jobs in that area. And I met Governor Dukakis at that time. And in my 30 years of working in economic development, I've never had anything remotely like what you provided to us as a team. As I've told you, Lieutenant Governor, it's astounding that you can call people up and say what you're doing. It's the #1 priority of the Baker-Polito administration, and people just move. And there are people layered in the background all over the place. I hope I get the name right. Jim Kirsten?
Yeah, Jim, yes, in Boston.
Somebody in Boston, Deputy Chief of Staff in MassDOT. If I got stuck on something in Western Mass, I would call Jim, and it would just miraculously solve. I mean, Jim and I have never met. It's just astounding what people did out in the background. I think Governor and Lieutenant Governor...
Hey, Bill, I'm going to ask you to do something here
What's
that's
that?
a little odd.
But that's not unfamiliar to all of you. These stories.
You know what? I'm going to do it afterwards. I'm going to ask you to speak into my phone. I'm going to take a video of you actually saying that about Jim Kirsten. I'm going to send it to the secretary, okay?
And this was Jim Kirsten for Western Man, or for District 1, right?
Yeah. We needed to get some swamp matting put in Wendell to get across some farmland. And we needed a company in southern Vermont to jump on it. It needed to be done before the weather got really bad. And it took enormous coordination amongst all the actors. And I called the company, and the woman in southern Vermont, who's up in Jacksonville, north of Coleraine, and she said, I know about this project, but we've just been bought by a big company, and they've told us to ditch all these little projects, these little swamp matting projects like this. And I said, well, listen, the Baker-Polito administration, this is the biggest thing on the plate in Western Mass. I really need your company to get in it. And they did in the space of about 7 days. The matting was put down to protect the land, the conservation land. Verizon, National Grid, Certex, White Mountain Cable, it was White Mountain Cable, moved through the area and were out, I think it was 7 days. There literally, trucks were walking into the field as the one guy was leaving the field. So just to put a point in time, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, January 2018 to 2018, you hosted a very small group of people in the ceremonial office. And you said, listen, I think you guys are all great and you're doing good things, but we need a schedule. And voila. That was the outcome, and that's what we used. That's what Cornell drove and used to drive everybody's attention and to prioritize and organize. Because we didn't want everybody working all over Western Mass simultaneously. We wanted to concentrate resources and prioritize town and get them done and move along. So that, to me, that's a marker in time. Another marker was you went to New Ashford and visited people just as construction started. And was really remarkable. It's like people understood how serious it was for this little tiny town. I mean, I think there's maybe
90 customers in Mashpee?
Yep.
I mean, basically, everybody lives
Less
on
than
this-
100.
Everybody lives on Route 7. Because Route 7 goes through the town, everybody lives on Route 7. So those 90 homes, they have service. You were talking about edge cases?
Yeah.
Right? So a town builds the fiber in the town, whether it could be Comcast, Charter. Here's a good Comcast story. There's a part of Beckett that really was going to be wildly expensive to serve in the Beckett project. Beckett's paying for their project 60% of it. We figured out to bring Comcast to hire you guys to pay you to serve those maybe 8, 10 homes, coming right over the border from, and blanking on the town next to Beckett that you guys serve. Can't think of the town. Chester. Great solutions like that. Swarming was a concept that, I'm sure the utility folks thought we were nuts. Like, hey, we're going to swarm you all into a town, that kind of thing. But really, the spirit of it was followed through. Right? People bought into these things. Okay, well, let's try that. We're doing this on a pole-by-pole basis throughout Western Mass. So it's like, hey, here's 1,000 poles, let's work on it. We're literally every Thursday, like uphold, solid, and remarkable. I think, and Cornell can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that we're going to say, and for Dave Landon and all the folks, for Joe Parda, for all the folks who've been on Thursday calls, I think that March 31st is going to be the last call.
It'll be the last call for the WDE session, and we'll switch to monthly for April and May for Comcast.
4 years of Thursday calls.
Awesome. Wow.
That
I guess just two more things. One is that throughout so I'm this sort of this oddball character in Western Mass who was parachuted into the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development with Peter, and all the people going all the way back with Carol and Kirk and coming right on through, all the team at the office, John Costco, Mike Koenig was really helpful throughout this project in the early days, very helpful.
Lawyer.
Yeah, lawyer.
You gotta have a couple of the right kind of lawyers.
And there's one person who couldn't be with us today, and he was central to all of the work that we were doing. That's Joe Parda, who works for Westfield Gas and Electric. He couldn't join us here today. Just a steady rock force of solving problems and figuring out, okay, what's the workaround? How can we keep the crew moving even though there's some make-ready issue that needs to be corrected?
I would be the driver, he'd be out the window looking at the pole.
So I'd be on the phone. I'm on the phone every Monday morning with Westfield Gas and Electric for 4 years, and Joe would on the phone say, "Well, I drove all the roads in whatever town on the weekend." He would just go out in the truck and drive for the entire town to really eyeball it before the make-ready started. So I think really astounding project. In my career, there's nothing like it. This is it. This is the biggest project I've ever done in my life, and I'm so proud to be part of it. Thankful to you.
You did a great job.
Lieutenant Gunver, can I just say, you said very quickly before you introduced Peter how it's a national model. We do business in 41 states, and our company fully believes that this is the best model in the entire country by far. Because of the make-ready process, Tom Wilson often talks about you, Michael, and negotiating the agreements and whatnot. So I just wanted to make sure everyone heard that, it is a national model. Peter has talked to a number of people from other states about this program because it is so successful. And a lot of people are looking at Massachusetts to, as a model for this type of rural, crossing the rural divide. So I just wanted to note that.
Well, it's kind of interesting since we're the third or fourth most densely populated state in the country. And I used to have conversations with my colleagues in far less densely populated states, and I would ask them about this issue because I figured that they had already figured it out. And what I learned is that there's a lot of coverage at 80,000 feet in a lot of these places, but there's not a lot of coverage on the ground. And most people are playing a wireless game of one sort or another. And And that was when I think we all realized that we were surprisingly on the edge of something that really hadn't been particularly well investigated. And we had lots of conversations with the feds about, resources, figuring that this would be the sort of thing that they would be interested in supporting because it was unusual and it was something they were going to have to do in a lot of places. And that old joke about, you can make the call, but if nobody's home, nobody's home. I mean, that was kind of the way I felt about a lot of our conversations with the feds about this. And I'm glad that there is now resources, but I really hope the resources come with a commitment to creating the model that's necessary to actually, the dollars are great, but if you don't have the model that actually is, all of these people have talked about, if you don't have the model to actually follow through and execute on it, it'll be 100 years before anybody gets there.
So, folks, with that, we have run out of time for this portion. We are going to have our principals take a short tour, and we're going to have the LG and Ashley, you guys are going to.
Can we do a photo of some sort to mark the moment?
Yeah, we should
Just
do a
with that.
photo.
And then my final word is doubters and believers. There are a lot of doubters in this world. Kick the can down the road, someone else's problem someday. You're all believers. And because you believed in this project, you believed in each other, you embraced it, and you got it done. And I think we should all stand strong and proudly together for having accomplished this goal. Really important, and thank you. Let's take a picture.
So it's probably easier if we push you guys out this door here. We'll do a photo out in the hallway. It's a little bit bigger.
I want to do it in front of this.
Let's try to do this. Can we get people right here? Pull this
Sorry.
table out.
Sorry, Zach. I'm not gonna help you on that one.
Your wife for the project. I guess it's now, it's a colorful story.
It is. Let's go. Everyone was on the head table. Everyone was on the head table. Can you please get shoulder to shoulder with the governor, lieutenant governor? And Cornell, Michael, sir, can you please, Bill, please, as well. Michael, Cornell, Bill, and then please get your.
All right, guys, try and squeeze together as much as possible, please. All right, right here. Sorry, next to the gun. Am I coming over a little bit to your right? Exactly. Anybody else? Okay. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So we're going on the tour. We're on the tour. There's a selector.
No, I'm good. I'm going to head back. Oh, thank you.